Yo, man, doggy dog in the bazilding. Check this out. We're gonna go thick and fast in a number of different topics. I was tempted to get into my geopolitical bag and start waxing lyrical, highfalutin terms on the state of the current climate, but then I thought, nah, don't do that, Neil. Don't do that because I'm still trying to pick up that corporate check, and I could potentially be compromising that. And also, I'm probably gonna offend everybody, right? And you too. Yeah, you. Do you know what I mean? Like even you. Um, so probably best not to do that, to be honest. Just stick to boxing. First things first, I'm gonna do a whole bunch of different mini videos, by the way. So try and keep each of them kind of short. First things first, let's get into Francis La Predator Ngannou. Yeah. Dapper Don bad boy. Yeah. You just cannot give Francis Ngannou enough credit, right? This is a guy who has essentially become the lineal champion in MMA and boxing, right? That's what we're talking about. This is a historic achievement, bro. Like you cannot overstate. There's no risk of hyperbole in overstating what Francis Ngannou has achieved, right? He left UFC as the undisputed heavyweight champion, and he's just beaten the lineal champion of heavyweight boxing, right? And the way combat sports work is that if you weren't ready, if you had kind of underestimated, if you didn't have tape to view, etc., etc., it doesn't matter, bro. It doesn't matter. You got in the ring, yeah. You have to leave your excuses at the door. And Francis Ngannou, by the way, I went back and scored it on the night. And if you watch my video, I didn't actually score it. I was just watching the fight. I thought the story of the fight, Francis Ngannou won, but I went back and scored the fight, and Francis Ngannou won, right? And I've scored it with the sound off as well, so to avoid any kind of implicit bias from the commentary. And yeah, man, I tell you exactly how I scored it. Matter of fact, so I had the first round to Fury. I thought he was up on his feet on his jab. Caught him with a nice clean right hand, and it was his fight. And sorry, it's his round. I thought Ngannou in the second round with the pressure and the weight of the punches. Um, Close round, but I thought I had it. Third round, Ngannou with a knockdown. Fourth round, Ngannou again dominated. Fury just on his jab and his volume and his ring generalship, I gave 5 and 6. I had Ngannou 7 and 8 coming back into it, and then I had him, probably fade in the last couple of rounds, which I gave to Fury 9, and I gave the 10th round a draw because basically nothing happened and no one really landed a punch of note. But that yields a score of 95-93. And even if you had the 10th round as a Fury round, you would still have 95-94, right? So I had Ngannou winning the fight. And I think if we look at what he's going to do now, again, I really do feel for him because I feel like, boy, he should just be a global superstar right now, and which probably would have happened if he got the result he deserved. But it looks like he's probably going to go back into PFL, right? For those who don't know, he signed promotional agreement with PFL who allowed him to take this one fight in boxing. And it seems like they're a flexible bunch, but they're not just going to let him box forever, right? He's their fighter. And also, I don't think Francis will want to lose momentum with his MMA fans as well, especially with John Jones being out injured. He wants to take this opportunity to establish himself as the man in both codes, right? So yeah, I expect him to go back to PFL. Who's he gonna fight? I got no fucking idea because I'm not really an MMA guy. Um, and I don't know who the PFL even have, right? I think it was interesting that the Saudis had a whole bunch of MMA fighters, including retired guys there. So pulling something out of my ass here, pause. I would imagine that they get a retired guy who's got a name. Do you know what I'm saying? Who's out of contract with the UFC or can be out of contract with the UFC, and they do it that way, and then he comes back to boxing after that. Which brings me into the topic which I wanted to kind of segment, but we're here, so let's roll with it. Is what does Fury do next? And I think to be clear, for people that don't know, the contract that Fury signed with Usyk, yeah, means that they have to fight by the end of Riyadh season, which is March 31st. right? So, the December date was, I think, a provisional, and I think it was a little bit tongue in cheek as well, because they wanted to mark out their territory a little bit. They didn't want other promoters taking that, and especially if it would end up being a one-round knockover job, maybe that was actually realistic. But it was more about just letting people know that it's coming and it's coming soon, right? But I think it was very much understood that it could be at any point up until March 31st. So, like, don't get confused. I see people getting confused about all that shit, Simon Jordan and all of that. So I think that probably is what happens. If you think about it, Fury takes the rest of the year off and has his Christmas, has his New Year with his newborn baby, and 1st of January he starts working on was essentially a 12-week camp, leading into the last weekend of March. That was obviously the opening ceremony, if you like, for Riyadh season, and the undisputed fight becomes the closing ceremony. And as far as Francis goes, because essentially this video was supposed to be about him, I feel like it's not outside the realms of the possibility. If the Arabs are really impressed, which I imagine they were, they might just, I mean, shit, they could just buy out the PFL, right? I mean, what contract? Like, do you know what I mean? It's my contract now. So they could do that. They could pull a power move. They could buy Francis out of his contract if they wanted to, or they could just work with the PFL, which I think is not outside the realms of possibility, to put on a show during Riyadh season where Francis fights out there against who, God knows who. I got no idea, right? So yeah, I kind of see that happening. What other variables are there? I think something that we'll put into a next video, right, is how Dana White is fucked up. Because I think he's really, really, really has fucked up. But yeah, all right, we'll leave it there for now, and see you on the next one.